this concept of self-leadership. And to me, doing those things for yourself that are important, that keep you centered, that keep you focused, that improve your relationships, improve how you feel on a daily basis, like that's so important. I believe that you can't have this outward expression of leadership in a healthy, productive, or successful way if you can't lead yourself first and foremost. With the chaos of the world and all of these crazy world events, and like even on a micro level in like relationships and family drama, instead of being reactive to it, which most people are, that's part of being proactive, is in that self-leadership. We have to start on an individual level first. Like we start with ourselves and then we expand it out to how we affect other people. For us and a lot of the people that we are connected to and work with and the communities that we're in, it is more about how we can then be of service to others and actually improve the state of the world that we're living in.
You're listening to Natural AF, the podcast exposing suppressed truths about health, reality, and human potential. I'm your host, Isaac. I'm the founder of Natural Art Form, and I'm joined by my wife and co-host, Alexa, a Site K facilitator and human design coach. Together, we explore a wide range of topics that encourage others to be bold and embody who they truly are. So if you're ready to challenge the status quo and have a few laughs along the way, you're in the right place. Thanks for joining us. Let's get Natural AF. Hey everyone, just a quick announcement just before we get into the episode. So we were supposed to have an episode dropped last week and we had technical difficulties. We interviewed Topher Gardner and he broke the internet, so I blame him.
Literally. So yeah, we just expected to get it out late and we haven't been able to resolve the issues. So now we're waiting for Topher to get back from Confluence so that he can get the uploads up on his end. And in the meantime, we've got an episode with us this week that was meant to be released and on schedule, but it kind of messed up our schedule not releasing Topher. So we've just decided we've got a bunch of interviews recorded and lined up and we're just going to release those weekly over the coming weeks. And then we'll be back in about a month's time with another episode from us.
Yeah, so if we make any references in this episode about Topher and what happened, just consider that a preview, a foreshadowing of good things to come. So without any further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Natural AF, folks. I'm Isaac, and my lovely wife here, Alexa, and I are doing an episode today that I think is, well, it's something that's been on my mind for a while, and we're going to talk about fortitude, how to overcome any obstacle, how to weather any storm. And before we get straight into it, this times perfectly well with the Backyard Ultra in Sydney. So Sydney's Backyard Ultra is finishing up today. Potentially, they just keep going until the last man running or last woman running. It's an ultra marathon,
just to clarify. For anyone that doesn't know this world, they're ultra marathons.
Yeah. So they're running and they just keep running until the last person decides they're done. So that could be 3 days, 4 days, whatever.
Insane.
And they do it in loops, 6.71 kilometer loops on the hour, every hour. And they're up at 50 something, they call them yards. So 1 yard is 6.71 kilometers, and they're well over 50 of those now. So well done, everyone down there. Our friend and sponsored athlete, Ezra Dingo, he's not racing in this one, but he's down there supporting one of his friends. And he brought along with him a brand new jar of Alleviate Pro that I sent him to trial out. And I'm really excited about this because fortitude is how I live. I don't want to say that in a way that sounds like I'm just bragging about how tough I am, but I just tend to do things a bit above and beyond and go a bit further just out of habit. And I'll discuss why I started doing that and where that kind of comes from. But it's just a certain type of people that like to, just to see how tough we can be, not to brag.
Take it to the limit. Isn't that a song?
Exactly. Take it to the limit. And Alleviate is one of those things that I'm finding is helping me take it to the limit because I have the safety net. If I injure myself or if I feel like I've pulled a muscle or if I've just become too sore to push myself too far, I have these natural things that will help me repair and come back to, equilibrium or homeostasis and help deal with the muscle soreness and all that. But I learned something because at the markets, if I ever get a slow minute or an hour and where it's kind of dead at the farmers markets that we go to, I'm always on my phone, like researching, writing notes in my little notebooks. And I was doing a deep dive on magnesium because a lot of people know about magnesium. A lot of people that we talk to take magnesium, like supplements. And a lot of people have the magnesium spray and they'll use it sometimes before bed or whenever they have a muscle cramp or something. Well, in athletics, for people that are either doing a longer thing, like a game, like soccer players, football players, rugby, whatever, when you're out there longer and you need to keep performing and pushing yourself, especially when you see with these ultra distance runners that are going well over 300 kilometers, magnesium has a very specific, very unique advantage for you to help you make the most out of the energy that is so precious when you're doing these long events. And that has something to do with the lactate and the lactic acid. So if you're familiar with when your body
So it makes your muscles sore after like a workout is the
Yeah.
lactic acid release.
Yeah. And that comes from when your body burns glucose and glycogen. When your body burns glucose as energy, which is like sugar, whether that's from eating carbs, people are familiar with loading up on carbs before a long race. So your body takes the glucose from the carbohydrate metabolism, burns it as energy, and then the remnants of that is lactate. And if I want to get real sciencey on it, the thing that actually makes you sore are the positive ions of hydrogen from the lactate. So you think of those as like magnets in your muscles, and the magnets stick together. And when they don't unstick, that's when you get this rigidity and soreness, because the muscle fibers are supposed to slide like this. And then when they need to activate to grab and like pick something up or run, they stick to make the motion, and then they're supposed to release. So it's like a sticking and releasing motion. When there's too many of those positive ions in there, they tend to just stick and have a harder time releasing. And you can sort of manually manipulate it and massage. That's why massage is super incredible for recovery.
Okay, so let's get to the point. What does magnesium do? What did you find about magnesium?
So magnesium bonds with the lactate. It buffers the positive ions from that. So it actually helps your body release, the muscles release. But the lactate, when it bonds with the magnesium, goes through your bloodstream, through your kidneys, and your kidneys will actually turn it back into glucose. If you don't have magnesium, or if you've depleted your source of magnesium, then it just kind of goes through your kidneys and you pee out the lactate, but the acid still remains in your body and you get sore. So you can actually not only limit the muscle soreness, but actually reconvert it back into energy so you can keep going. It's brilliant. It's like simple and super efficient. I love it. It's like this really, give yourself an unfair advantage. Check it out. I've got info about that coming soon on our website. So make sure you sign up for our newsletter, because I'll be putting together like articles explaining this stuff with visuals in a simple to understand manner, so you can get the most out of your day.
Yeah, and we actually haven't sent this out to our mailing list yet, but we will let everyone know that Alleviate Pro, we've got it at an introductory price at the moment. So until the end of May, you can get it for $80 instead of $90.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely jump on if you want to check it out. Such an incredible product, especially if you've already tried Alleviate and you love it. Get onto Alleviate Pro. It's actually amazing. Like we just had someone over the weekend who saw you at the market on Saturday, at the market you were at, tried it on his ankle, and then was at a different market on Sunday where Isaac was, and came back with his friend. And he said, I tried it on yesterday and my ankle still feels better today.
Yeah.
And I was
incredible.
like, wow, that's what a testimony. So,
and interestingly enough, he was actually training to go to the Sydney's Backyard Ultra Marathon.
Oh, how funny.
And hurt his ankle and couldn't go.
yeah, it's funny. It's like one of those things where, like, you're looking at a car and then the car you want to buy is like you see everywhere. It's like now that we've sponsored an ultra runner, I just hearing about ultra marathons like everywhere, and like people that are doing them. I've never heard about them before. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that's our science lesson done for the day. Thanks for that, babe.
And get a little tidbit. Now, let's jump into...
Well, before we jump in, I told our listeners we would update them after we did our jigsaw method training with Kelly Wilkins. So we had Kelly on a few episodes back, talking about self-reliance. And, we talked a bit about everything, though, just about mindset and really what it takes to become self-reliant, self-sufficient. Community is such a big part of that. We both really loved doing the jigsaw training because, first of all, we had to get up at the call every day. So you do basically a call together with Kelly every day for a week, so Monday to Friday. And the calls are at 6:30 in the morning. So we had to get up early every day. And we actually enjoyed that because it holds you accountable to like actually getting up early and then doing the method. So you learn kind of a chunk every day of the method and then you put it all together. And sort of now we're in that stage of putting it together in a way that works for us in the mornings.
Yep.
And I love it. I mean, I love a system. Anyone that loves a good system, anyone that likes routine, you definitely will gravitate towards this. But for someone like you who, you know, it doesn't naturally kind of tend to stick to routines and stuff, how do you find it?
Yeah, well, it takes some outside assistance for me to get into it. I tend to be more of a night owl, and we both kind of can do that. You're probably more, I don't know, I feel like you can exist in both a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can start something and keep working until the sun goes down and just keep going until it's done 1, 2 in the morning. And I'll just have steady, consistent energy that whole time and focus. But I think it would be really advantageous to just get up earlier in the day, get it done earlier, and then you have, you know, the afternoon and evenings for relaxation and
well, even if
whatever.
you were on a different sleep schedule, like for people that work night shift or whatever, like you might be on a different sort of, you know, daily routine and whatever, you can still do it at any time that you wake up. And that's what I love about it, is it incorporates all of these things that, because I'm a routine person, and I've had periods of my life where I do have a regular morning routine, and just those periods of my life have always I've felt more calm. I've felt more productive. I've had more time to do things for me, because I tend to be someone that, like, I tend to be a workaholic, Capricorn stellium and Taurus sun. Like, I tend to just like work and work and work and work. But the thing is, I probably don't have the energy that you have to sustain that. And then I just end up getting burnt out. So super important for me. And, you know, I would say it's quite important for everyone. I'm of the belief that the things that are good for you, you should do earlier in the day. Because if you don't, in my experience, when you don't, you push it off, you know, it gets pushed back and pushed back, and then often you just don't do it. So
yeah, but folks, this isn't just a routine. What Kelly teaches is, some of it's like just straight cutting edge, how to get the most out of life, or how to bring about your hopes, dreams, and desires, that kind of thing. Where
it's very all about intention and gratitude, and
but doing it consistently and in a specific manner.
Yeah,
because gratitude. Well, I'll share my opinion sometime about gratitude.
Well, we're going to get into that this episode.
Yeah, sometimes gratitude is like as far as people go, and they're just like always grateful and content or whatever, and they kind of stay where they're at.
Yeah,
and they don't want to go any further or higher or achieve anything or like push themselves to grow. And that's not wrong. You know, there's definitely something to say for people. I believe we're always continuously upgrading and evolving, or we're like maybe becoming smaller, or, you know, nothing stays the same. It's either growing or dying. You know, that's one extreme way to put it. So you're expanding or contracting, and I'd rather stay expanding, and you can go as fast or as slow as you want.
And look, and that's not for everyone. I kind of have to remind myself of that sometimes, because I've always been a high achiever, and I've always wanted more out of life, to the point where I remember a friend of mine once said to me, "You're always so busy and you're always doing stuff." And she was saying it in a really, like, she really admired it. And I was kind of like, it was really nice for her to say that and like appreciate that. But I was kind of like, why is that? Like, why am I always doing that?
But to be clear, I'm not talking about doing more.
Yeah.
I'm talking about going deeper into the practices and knowing. And
I'm not talking about doing more either.
Yeah.
When I say I want more out of life, like I want more, I guess it's like more fulfillment, like more, it's not about doing more necessarily, but it's like, I always want to experience more. Yeah. Like I want to go deeper into things. Like I don't like feeling stagnant and just in the same place for too long.
Yeah.
But that's just getting back to the point, is that that's not for everyone. Not everyone's like that, where they're like super high achievers and stuff. But I would say, I would think that a lot of listeners of this show are probably more of that ilk.
You don't come to these topics by drifting and floating. You come there by searching and questing.
Yeah.
So we tend to be around people that are questers.
Yeah. Not sequesters.
Right. Well, so a big thing for me is fortitude and, you know, grit. Some people like to use that word. And there's something to say about kind of the criticism about the whole grind set, you know, like in motivational. It seems like younger, maybe people in their 20s, early 30s, there's this trend of like grind set, like mindset.
Right. Okay.
Where everything is just hard. Like if you're relaxing.
Oh, like David Goggins. Is it like David Goggins? Yeah.
You know, push yourself. And it's like very punishing and very like.
Do you think so though? That's the younger. I don't think that's the younger
Some of
generation.
them. Yeah, it's not like
Maybe some
people
of
in
them.
their, I mean, maybe some people in their 40s, but I feel like Goggins, I think he's around my age, maybe a little bit older. But he's obviously, out there doing it a bit different. Now there is a place for that. Like you can definitely go a lot further in some regards with that mindset. But for me, it's like fortitude isn't something you get to overnight. It takes practice. It takes years of continuous, not continuous effort of like the hardest, because you'll just break or burn yourself out. But it's like you're going to your edge and maybe you go and recover, then you go and just push it and just consistently over time find your limits and maybe just expand it just a little bit further. And in the Army, we had this saying, it was do today what others won't, do tomorrow what others can't. And for some of us, it's not about ego and about, oh yeah, look at me, I'm better than you because I can do this and you can't. But when, let's say this needs to be achieved and it's like really, really difficult to get to, 99% of people can't do that because 99% of them won't do what's necessary over time to get there. It's really imperative to have somebody that can do this, that can actually get there, like mentally hold the reins. Like, let's say you have a buffalo or a bull that got out of its pen. You need somebody there to be able to go and rope it and get it back in the pen. Now, not every ranch hand is going to be the ballsy guy that can just literally go out there and grab the bull by the horns and put him back in. But somebody better be able to do it, or he's just going to tear out everyone else's fences. And
yeah, well, I think when it comes to fortitude, and this is what I loved about, so we did the training with Kelly, and I feel like I wasn't really learning anything new in terms of like the concepts, but we definitely got introduced to some new sort of practices and things like that, which I loved. But it was just very interesting, and it's also very interesting to notice, like, for me, it was like, oh, I'm definitely on the right path because we were doing that training with Kelly. Then we had our interview with Topher and some of the things we spoke about with Topher. And it was all these sort of little threads that were kind of coming together for me, like just in things that were, the information that was coming through and whatever. And what we spoke about with Topher was very interesting about this idea of manifestation. And we had this conversation. This was kind of like the idea for this particular podcast episode was about, manifesting things. And I love Topher's, the way he explains it, because it's not so much like you're manifesting it and creating it and bringing it into reality as such. It's more that what stuck with me about what he said about is when you love something so much, you create this resonance with that thing. So whatever it is that you want or whatever it is you're trying to achieve or like something you're trying to acquire or that you want to acquire, that you draw it to you. It's not so much like I'm going to sit and focus and until it comes into my reality. Like, yes, I think there's a part of that, but you've got to let it go. And when it comes to fortitude, though, what I want to say just to your point is that what you said about 99% of people won't do the things that it takes to get to, this certain point. It's not even necessarily, I find in my experience, and obviously like in my line of work, it's not so much, yes, there are a huge portion of people that aren't willing to do the work. Like that's a fact. And yes, there are a lot that just won't do the practical, physical, necessary things to do that. But for a lot of people, they do all the things and they still don't get there because the biggest thing to change is the mindset, is the subconscious beliefs and identity. Identity is a huge one because to grow and expand into something that you've never done or never experienced before, that requires a change in you first and foremost because, and I'll speak from experience. So last year I spent like thousands of dollars on business coaching and courses and all these things, right? Now I spent the majority of that time feeling like I was like really struggling with imposter syndrome. Like I didn't see myself as this like entrepreneurial person, like this, I couldn't, it was like the identity piece for me was so sticky at that point, and I wasn't really working on that stuff. I was doing all the things like, like what you said, like people aren't willing to do the things. Like I was doing all the things, but, and I don't want to say nothing came to fruition. Like things happened and I ran a workshop and like I did things that I hadn't done before. But I think now I can look back and see like it was too much. I was doing too much. And I was doing, like you said, that's not how growth happens. You have to push it out a little bit at a time. And a lot of people in the nervous system world will talk about how it's the nervous system can't handle it. That's just one school of thought, but essentially it's the same concept. It's like too much too soon, you're just going to shut down. It's not, you can't do everything. It gets too much. And so you just have to do these little things that push yourself out a little bit at a time. And so once you push out and then you get comfortable there, then you can push out again and keep going. But I think without that identity piece, without being able to change first and foremost how you see yourself and then the future self that you want to become, without that, like I don't see people getting very far in these huge 100%. Life changes. Yeah.
So before we get too spread out and too many things, like I'll focus on one thing. I'll focus on, let's say, health. Now, to be healthy, when I say things like grit or just being able to do the things that are necessary, it doesn't mean you have to be running an ultra marathon and eating like a very restrictive diet and being full carnivore or whatever. But if you know that there's something that is really holding you back, maybe it's like, for instance, like you're addicted to cigarettes or whatever, and you're having lung issues. Most people, and I'm being very general, but just to make it simple, I'm just being general. Most people will just wait until they have emphysema or they get diagnosed with lung cancer before they'll just stop doing, like it takes like something really extreme before they actually see it and really like, it's almost like you can feel it in your body, like this, like, oh, this sinking in your stomach. If I don't change, I'll die. Don't wait until you get to that point.
Yeah.
And when I say grit, just doing the thing that's difficult when you don't want to do it. And it doesn't mean it's difficult. It doesn't mean it's like painful and hard, but where you're at, it feels difficult. It may be something that's a year from now will be easy for you. Like putting a little bit of salt in your water. It's like, just remember to do that. If that's something that you feel like you need to do, just take a little bit of salt, put it in your water and do that every day. Now, doing it every day requires consistency. And there's like a fortitude to that where it's like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to say I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick to it. And that's just it. No other ifs, ands, and buts about it. I'm just going to do what needs to be done for my health. So like, let's say you want to quit smoking. You can just put it down and stop, you know?
Well, and it's all, cause like, that's what I keep thinking, cause obviously this applies to so many different things. And in my case, like for, business owners and entrepreneurs. Now I bring that word up because I actually don't identify with being an entrepreneur. And I think that was a huge block for me last year because all this coaching I was doing, like, you're an entrepreneur and this and that. And I was like, I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. I don't want to see myself as an entrepreneur. And I'm not. Like I'm my own thing. And that's just a label that I don't like it and it doesn't fit with me. So it's finding what does work for me. But in terms of like that, that example that you use, it's like the business thing. It's like one of my sort of goals, I guess, or something I really want to do is I want to create a coaching program, an amazing coaching program for women. And that's something I want to do. Now, I'm nowhere near ready for that. I know that. And I tried doing that last year and I didn't end up running it, the first one, because I didn't get enough interest, but I knew that there was this part of me that just like wasn't ready. And so because I had all this pressure of like, I've got this deadline and, because I'm following all these frameworks from other people and you do this and just do all the things. But what you're saying, like a perfect example of that is instead of giving yourself this deadline and trying to do everything and make it happen, it's like, just start with like, for 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, like whatever time frame you've got, just start by giving yourself that hour to work on your program. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And just let it, like, allow it to flow and like, don't force it. But you also, even just that, for some people, just that is like the pushing out of the comfort zone.
Yeah. And you can do things to make it a bit easier on you and also to give you more of an advancement more quickly. And when you see progression, like that is to me one of the most motivating things out there is when you see like, oh, like I've only done a little bit extra, but I feel like my body feels better. I have more energy. Like I was able to, I was motivated and I did this, or I signed up for this class and I went, once a month, whatever the thing is that you're like, all right, I'm going to make this one small change. Take that one small change. And sometimes you can, they call them like skill stacking or talent stacking. Mm-hmm. But it's in the book Atomic Habits. That's a really good book to pick up if you haven't read it. But you can, let's say in the morning, we're doing this jigsaw method from Kelly, and there's a bunch of different things, including a moment for breath work, for hydration, for mantras or affirmations, tapping. And I'm like, well, I can do them like the mantras and tapping at the same time. And maybe even I start with like a few minutes of breath work and then go into the tapping with the affirmations. And I'm not a big affirmation guy. Like I like doing Site K, where you get to like put it right into the subconscious, but it's something about saying something out loud that's powerful. That's good. You like start telling your nervous system, like you hear yourself, you feel yourself say it, and it literally vibrates in your brain where your nervous system command center is right here. So yeah, I like that habit, just knowing that it's good, and starting the day like that is another thing where you do it at the beginning of the day. So timing matters, and then persistence, and then holding each other accountable, which can be difficult sometimes, but that's why working with other people is advantageous. And that probably is where I not fail in, but like I tend to be a bit more of a loner, like just kind of get in my own world. So making sure that I'm showing up with other men, like I've started a men's community group thing, just a small thing online for some of my friends. And it just gives me an opportunity and a reason to focus on other people for a minute, pull together some information that's useful and helpful, and just focus on it and remind myself and others of what to do that's good. And then you just keep consistently doing that. And then you're bringing your focus almost like you're putting a bridle on a horse and you're just guiding it, and then you're setting a course. And that's how you get somewhere. You don't just like wander and like, oh, maybe I'll end up there. Part of life is like that.
Yeah.
But when you have a target and you actually move towards it consistently, that's how you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think like to that point too, like accountability, it's so important, because part of the reason we did this training, and what I loved about it is because it came up in some of the discussions, was, this concept of self-leadership. And to me, those things like, having a morning routine, or like doing those things for yourself that are important, that keep you centered, that keep you focused, that like improve your relationships, like improve how you feel on a daily basis. That's so important. I believe that you can't lead a team, like you can't have this outward expression of leadership in a healthy way or a productive or successful way if you can't lead yourself first and foremost. And the piece on accountability is that you really do have to hold yourself accountable, but that's not easy all the time. And you have to start by, maybe externalizing that accountability a little bit. We've actually got a group chat with our friends called Accountability Buddies. And so, whatever, whether it's like just a partner or whether it's a group or something like that, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why also like community is so incredibly important when it comes to, part of the reason we wanted to expand on this topic and more of the mindset of being proactive is, again, just expanding on, we brought it up in the Beyond the Epstein Files episode. We spoke about it with Kelly, is that with the chaos of the world and all of these crazy world events, and, there's always like an economic crisis and all these things, and not even just on that level, like even on a micro level in like relationships and family drama. And like, there's always stuff, like life is always going to throw stuff at you. And instead of being reactive to it, which most people are, that's part of like being proactive is in that self-leadership, the accountability, community. Like the community piece is so important, because yes, you can hold yourself accountable and you can be doing all of the things, but then you're going to have to get to a point where that expands out. And this also comes back to why it's so important. And I'm reading this book at the moment, Bringers of the Dawn. I actually don't know if I brought it up on the podcast. I probably have, yeah.
Probably several times.
I can't stop talking about it since I started reading it. And that's, that's a big message in the book, is that one of the teachings is that we have to start on an individual level first. The chapter I'm up to right now is talking about how we start with ourselves and then we expand it out to the earth. And they're talking about the earth as, the land and nature and all of that. But that's also part of how we affect other people. And so it's, all of these things aren't just to be like, I want to be top of my game and I just want all these things for myself. And like, because some people do say manifestation and like, the Joe Dispenza stuff. Like some people definitely go into it more with ego and like it's more about what they can get out of it. for us, I know, and a lot of the people that we are connected to and work with and like the communities that we're in, it is more about how we can then be of service to others and actually improve the state of the world that we're living in.
Yeah. When you go back to that phrase, do today what others won't be, or do tomorrow what others can't. When I first joined the Army, that was like, I did have this pride and this ego about it. And I'm definitely not one of those types that wants to kill the ego and all this stuff. We will naturally explore like ego death and things like that in this podcast and then in our own lives. But your ego is part of you. It is part of you that, I'll give you an example. When I was 18, I think we moved from Texas to Wyoming. I had just had a baby a year ago at that time. And I just needed a job. So the first place I went, driving into town from my parents' place into town, one of the first places on the way to town was McDonald's. And I just stopped in the first place, went in there, put in an application, got the job. And I worked there for like a week. And then the second week I was supposed to show up, I was just like, fuck this, I'm not going back. It was just, where I didn't feel bad at all about quitting that job and not continuing it, because I'm like, I'm not feeding people this slop and this whatever. And so I literally just quit my job and I went out to where my parents' house is. There was these bluffs and these cliffs, and I've never rock climbed at that point, but I was like, I'm going to climb those bluffs. That's just that's kind of the mindset that I was born with. All right. Not everybody's like that. I totally understand it, but there's lessons in it for you, for everybody else. When you get to the point where you're like, I just want to go climb those bluffs, whatever it is you want to do, you can literally just go do it. I just live my life like that. Not always. Sometimes I got to remind myself to like, hey, what do you actually want? And then just go and do it. Whether it's, not working so hard and taking my wife out on a date and being like, oh, like we can actually just, another order came in online. I've got a little bit extra cash. Like, we'll make sure we pay our expenses and then take her out. Whatever, just do. Like, you do it, be it. So when I went out and I was climbing the bluffs, I'd never done it before, didn't bring proper climbing shoes. I literally had, I think they were like a pair of Steve Maddens. I still remember those shoes. They were like these waffle cut Steve Maddens, or not waffle cut, ripple sole Steve Maddens. And I'm climbing this bluff, free climbing, no ropes.
And, so that just gives me anxiety.
And I found my way back to it. I'm climbing up. There's nobody out there. There's no houses. It's no safety net. And I'm over this dam, and the rock is really cool. It's black, which isn't normal out there. It's very interesting. Probably actually was a giant tree at some point. But I was climbing these rocks, and I got to a point where I was kind of high up, and I was stuck. And I was like, oh, I can't find it. And I was standing stable enough to where my feet were holding me up, so I wasn't like going to let go and fall, but I just couldn't move forward. And I just had this knowing, this confidence. I'm like, I'm facing this way. I'm like, just change your angle. Like, whatever you're looking, change the angle that you're looking at it. And when you see it from a different angle, then there's the way up. And it was just right there. And I was able to get to the very top of it pretty easily without having to be an expert climber. And I just remember that lack of safety net, no one around. I told my folks where I was going, and for some reason they just trusted me to be okay wherever I went by myself. There was a decision made. There was an intention. I didn't speak it out loud, but I just was like, I'm going to get to the top of that. Made the decision and went and did it. And sometimes, I don't know if you can just trick yourself into that, but it's like, no one is going to always help you or get you there. Sometimes you just have to decide to do it. And you can. It's just a decision, and you feel it, and you know that it's final, and you're like, if you need to like get outside and like yell and scream and be like, I'm done, like making excuses, then do that, whatever you have to do. But I feel like people aren't motivated. They're not inspired. They're kind of like, everyone's beat down by all the negativity that's been constant, especially since COVID and all this other stuff. And there's not very many people being like you guys are doing awesome. We are doing awesome. Like, we made it through this. Those that didn't take the jab, those that got fired from their job because they wouldn't wear a mask and all that stuff. Like, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. The rest of the world is not going to award you for that. You just got to know that like you crossed a boundary into the territory where you have freedom and choices, and the universe and God actually supports you and puts you in like really amazing situations, whether it's, like when I got let go from the oil field and I made my own business, I never would have done that in that time frame if I wasn't pushed into it. So you're kind of giving yourself no retreat, quote unquote, burning the boats. Like, you don't have to be that extreme about it, but you're doing a great job. But you need to feel that like motivation and inspiration that like, I am awesome. I am badass. I can do this because no one else is going to, but I will. And then along the way is when you start meeting people that are going in the same direction that are also awesome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take everyone. We are the minority.
We kind of made notes on what we wanted to talk about today. And I had kind of just listed like the main 3 things of like how to sort of not be so reactive, how to not get roped into world events and the drama of life. And like my top one was faith in and connection to God, because I think that's what, like that belief in yourself, when you have such a strong connection to the Creator, like literally like the essence of who you are and where that comes from, like how can you not believe in yourself and how powerful you are? So I think that's so important. And I'm kind of getting cold shivers saying that because like for someone like me who has been on the other side of that, where I didn't know the Creator for a lot of my life. I would say I was like spiritually very naive and just disconnected. And to be on the other side of that, to have experienced like living on both sides of that fence, it's like night and day. And I struggled with depression and anxiety and like, so many things where I just like didn't see the point in life. And now it's like the polar opposite. And unfortunately, the way that we're conditioned in today's world and in society, in modern society, is we are so conditioned to become so reliant on external control, external structures, external validation, where you're right, people don't have that belief in themselves, which is really sad. But also like there's so much opportunity for growth there, because like you said, like once you do the thing, like once you make that decision, and your examples are always very physical, like I'm gonna go and climb these bluffs. But like for someone like me, it's like, for me, when I decided that I wanted to like start my own business and do something that I love, working with people, like that was a huge decision for me to make, to leave my job. I had until like from the age of 15, I've worked for someone. I've always been employed and I've always been a very good employee. Like it's always worked out really well for me. And to make that decision and do it was a huge step for me. And it hasn't been easy by any means, like taking that step. But like you said, like just doing, like that's what builds resilience, is when you just take the step and do the really hard thing, like feel the fear and do it anyway. And then like freak out, do whatever you have to do. But then like just know that you've landed and you're going to be okay. It's that belief that you're going to be okay no matter what as well. That's so important. And then just go a little further and go a little further. And then that builds that trust in yourself that that it doesn't matter what you decide to do. Even if you don't know how you're going to do it or you're really fearful about how it's going to work out, if you just do it, that's what builds resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear is something that gets in a lot of people's ways. And I'm not past that. Like there's things that are definitely scary for me that seem really insignificant compared to other things that I've done that were like, should be way more scary. Like to me, jumping out of a plane at night isn't like, that's scary, but I would not hesitate to do that 100 times.
Whereas me, never, ever going to do that ever. No desire to whatsoever.
Yeah, like I've done that kind of stuff. Or like the fear of like, if I don't pass this test, I'm like, if you're in school or whatever, like I was just like, I'm going to do the test faster than anybody. I don't know, just like this confidence of where it's a bit reckless, but it's like who cares if you're reckless if the risk isn't that high? Like I'm going to just dive in and do something that I've never done before intellectually. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of looking stupid or like, it's harder than I thought. It's okay. Like
Well, I love what Finn said on our episode with Finn YV and Tessa Wild. It was the end of, I think it was episode 69. I'll never forget that episode number. And he talked about delusional self-belief, like that delusional self-belief where it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter how crazy your goal is or your idea or the thing that you want to do. It's just having this delusional self-belief and then the fortitude to actually do what you need to do. And like, you'll achieve it. That's basically what he said. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather have delusional self-belief over delusional fear.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are conditioned to have delusional fear, whether you believe it or not. And it's not, like you said, my examples tend to be more physical. But when it came to like the army, when I was supposed to have learned Spanish as my language, but I really wanted to learn Russian. And because I was on active duty, but I was connected to the National Guard. So my chain of command, the person in charge of whether or not I got into different schools, wasn't the normal people that have like the big structure process. It was the National Guard guys that are kind of like, there's a little bit more of like a rebel, like, yeah, like we're guard, like we can kind of do whatever we want attitude, but we're still here to support the main mission. And literally they would call them like drug deals, where if they had someone like me who was injured and I couldn't do this course, they would just like, hey, tap somebody on the shoulder and be like, hey, is there a slot in Russian? Can you just like duck in there? And they got me a slot in Russian. And I tested at Spanish level. I did not test at Russian level. Russian is like a level 4 language, but I really wanted to do it. And I had this delusional self-belief that I'll study, like if I have to work twice as hard as everybody else, I will do it because I really want to do it. So if there is something for you that intellectually you want to get into, maybe you want to be a homeopath, like your mom. So Nina's doing homeopathy school. It's in the UK. So sometimes she has to be up from like it starts like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, going until 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult. And she's in her 60s or she turned 60.
She's in her 60s. Yeah. Yeah. And she's doing it. And she's also like, it's funny because.
But because she loves her family and she wants to be.
Yeah.
She just was like, I'm deciding I'm going to be a homeopath.
Yeah, and not just that, just like the content of what she's learning. Like for someone in their 60s who's never had like studied or, you know, because she went to uni for like she was a teacher. So she did like history and English. And this is like all science-based and she's learning anatomy and biology and biochemistry. And like, and Latin, I really, and I really feel for her because I went through the same thing when I studied nutrition, like hated science at school. And then I went and did a science degree. Like I failed my first semester. I failed biology and chemistry and biochemistry. I failed 2 subjects because I was so like in over my head. Yeah. And same thing. I loved what I was learning and I wanted to commit to it. So I did. I just redid the subjects the next semester. And actually one of them, biology, I actually did really, really well in the second time around. And yeah, mum's kind of going through the same thing. She's like, it's so hard. Like it's so much information. And
well, that's what I'm talking about. Like that takes guts to do that. And if you knew, like if she knew exactly how difficult it would have been when she started, she may not have chosen to start, but she just was like, I'm going to believe, I'm going to go this. I feel like I'm drawn to it. Yeah. And she responded. And that's fortitude. And that's something that maybe she had just kind of built in. She went through some hard losses and stuff growing up and stuff, but like, yeah, some people have very clear reasons why they have a bit more toughness in them, but I think we all have that potential. Some people have more for that. Yeah. Whatever that is for you, whatever the challenge is for you, it's like, don't compare it to anybody else. If it's really difficult for you, but you really want to do it, like that's your bluff. That's the thing. And you can show up, step into it and just believe and you will be helped through it. There's invisible forces that I don't fully understand, that I can't fully explain, that help you in those times. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier too, when you said that when you take the road less traveled and you kind of start stepping more into your purpose and more of your power and especially having more of a connection to the creator, like that's when you get rewarded by the universe. Like most people are so used to like doing the right thing, like for the government and in schooling and work and like, and then you're rewarded externally by those systems. And that's how we're so conditioned to live, right? But when you step out of that and you start doing things like that you feel called to and that feel more aligned with your purpose and that are actually starting to serve others and serve your community, that's when I believe is when you get so much more richly rewarded in spirit, you know, by the universe, by the creator, whatever, however you want to put it. I think that's when you see more of that show up in your life.
Yeah. And maybe what's more important than just having delusional self-confidence is just simply faith. And I think that's part of why I have this resistance to anyone that really puts down all religions and they're all like whatever and they're all made up and there's like, it's a psyop, yada, yada. I'm like, possibly, but like, I've done some pretty difficult things with a big smile on my face with just this overwhelming love and gratitude in my heart and faith. And I've had experiences where I'm like it's miraculous what happened physiologically, like physically to me that helped me get through this. And I credit faith and I credit the unseen God and potentially some angelic helpers of his that came and helped me. So I definitely believe that there is something going on with that. I don't know, like physical stuff, emotional stuff. If you've lost something, maybe your mountain to climb is you've lost a family member or a loved one and you're trying to like get back on with your life and it's really tough and you have all this sadness. Faith helped me through that as well. Like you've lost something, but they're not gone forever. And
they're not even really gone. They're gone from this physical realm that we live in, but they're not, you can still communicate and interact with them for sure in spirit.
Yeah. Or even if like you don't interact with them and communicate with them, because I never do, probably am not super into that, like communicating with the dead.
No, not in that way, but you can still talk to, like, I still say things to people that have passed, like just when they come to mind and I might say something to them or just mentally like acknowledge them or think of them or, and I'm also talking about like after my grandfather passed away, he came to me in a dream. So I'm not talking about like Ouija boards and like communicating, but you can interact with them.
Yeah. Yeah. But even if you don't, just knowing that, not that they're in a better place, like a heaven specifically, because it's like, I don't understand how all that stuff works. I think heaven is a state of being and you can experience that on earth now. And I think there's I've experienced that, other people have. But something about when they're gone, the physical suffering that they were experiencing is no more. So at least you have that comfort, whether your body was shutting down or you had a massive accident and they were paralyzed and then passed away or something, like they're no longer limited by this body. So there's a comfort in that, but whatever that is for you. But I think faith is a big thing that helps get through incredible difficulty and things where there's a lot of risk. It can go very, very badly, but it doesn't. And I've had that happen many times, including stuff dealing with like the legal system and all that, like being in different countries and stuff. Like there's just been an unseen hand that has helped me. And I'm very grateful for that. So it definitely makes you realize like I should just be humble and like not push the envelope too far, not push my luck.
It's a balance. It's definitely a balance. It's like you go too hard in any one direction, you're always going to kind of go, a little too full tilt and you're going to have to come back a little bit the other way. But
you'll never find out if you never try.
That's exactly right. And that's why the overall message, that we want to sort of impart with people, especially with all of the latest things, this economic crisis and the fuel and the conflict in Iran that's now spread to Lebanon. And like, it's always something, guys. Like it's always going to be something. And whether or not it's world events, like big, large scale things happening, or it's just things happening in your family or with your friends or in your community, there's always going to be something. And really, we're talking about all this stuff in terms of like mindset and looking at different perspectives and different ways of being and stretching yourself a little bit out to do something, not to do things differently necessarily, but to be different, just to be someone that you haven't been before, so that you can weather any storm, so that you're so strong within yourself and you know that you can overcome any challenge that comes your way, big or small. And when you live from that place, you're not constantly reacting to the things that are going on. You're actually able to respond. There's always this concept about reactivity versus response. And when you respond to things, there's more of a choice in that. Reaction and reactivity comes from the unconscious, which often comes from fear, because the subconscious mind is always trying to keep us safe and it's always responding to what's the underlying fear here, because that's not safe. And so when we're coming from that place, that's when you see like what happened in COVID with everyone freaking out and like doing the craziest shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, remember, like, it's just funny now, like we laugh, but just like now you have to wear a mask when you go to a restaurant, but when you sit down and eat, you don't have to wear it. And like just all these ridiculous things that everyone was like following to a T. And it's like, I remember saying at that time once, I was like, I would love to video people, and I wish you could go back in time and like, you know, maybe even just 2 years before and like show them videos of how they're acting and go, this is how you're going to behave in 2 years' time. And they would have been like, why would I ever do that? Like, you're crazy. But they did it because they were reacting out of fear. And yeah, it's just, definitely want to implore people. And I think people listening to this show get what we're talking about, but we all have, you know, varying degrees of where we're at in our, you know, awakening process, in how we're living, because it's one thing to know all these things, but to actually put them in practice.
That was the time to do something. When you mentioned the war and going to, you know, it's spreading to Lebanon, this and that, maybe for you, and I'm not like, if this is on your heart, do it, like do something about it instead of just posting and like, what can you do? I don't know. The sky's the limit. You're not here to like, you know, fight against any government, this and that, but you're also not here to ask for permission every time. You're not here to just be like, oh, well, they won't let me do this and just use that as an excuse. If you want to make a difference, do it. And part of me gets a little bit like angry because there's all these NGOs and nonprofits and places where people pour money into, and they don't do hardly anything for people. They take the money, they do some photo ops, and they bring a package of food to some people, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But then 90% of that money goes into someone's pocket.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about in the Serbian war. So I just saw this post recently. There's a couple of military channels I follow, and there was a British SAS guy. I don't remember if he was retired or was out, but the war was going on, and there's all these civilians caught in the crossfire, and they couldn't get food. Some couldn't get water. No supplies in and out because the supply chains are getting shot by whoever. And so he and some American military guys, they literally A-teamed a freaking, some kind of like a Trans Am or some kind of Camaro car. They armor plated it, put a massive engine in it, NOS like for speed. He had night vision, like all this stuff. They just like gave it to him. And I know how some of these guys in the military work. They didn't ask if they could give a freaking foreign operator night vision. They just gave it to him and probably wrote it off as a loss. You know, whatever. I'm like, I love that kind of stuff. And what he did, he drove in the cover of darkness, no headlights, just driving with night vision, and brought supplies to villages and towns.
Wow.
And was also getting people out that needed out like medical care or something like that. Just a one man in a freaking Camaro. It sounds like a movie. I hope they make a movie about this someday.
Yeah.
But he literally did that, and it was... Yeah, there's just one example of...
Yeah. And again, it's not always about like physically going in or like sending money or anything, like just the power of intention. They've literally done studies where a group of people were like meditating or visualizing the crime rates going down in this particular city. They did this in the States.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And they literally, the crime rates literally lowered to like this insanely low amount that they'd never seen before over this period of time where they were conducting this experiment. So that is true. Like that stuff works. And so even just the power of intention, you know, and this is something we brought up in the Epstein Files episode, is that just speaking, like, you know, visualizing or just speaking out in like actually saying it and putting it out into the ether, like your intent, your will, your power, like that's where we hold our power.
Just saying, I don't consent with this.
Yeah. And not even I don't consent, but like
letting that energy echo.
Yeah. I see peace coming to this area. I see that the people aren't harmed or whatever, like whatever it is that's like on your heart is like just saying it and like putting that intention out, because it does reach those people. Like I 100% believe that. And so, yeah, even if you can't do the physical things or you might not have money to give, there's always something you can do.
Yeah. And maybe if you've done that in the past and have gotten distracted, like we've all experienced that, like this overwhelm of like this droning, the next thing, the next thing. So this is your call. This is us calling you and the universe saying, reactivate. Start speaking your intention. If you're a prayer warrior, pray, connect in the invisible realm, call in the angels, call in your creator God, whoever you speak to, and command this world to become a better place. Because I believe, and it's not about ego. It's not about me being like, I can command this stuff, but it's like, we have an authority here. We have a role to play. And we've been convinced that we're, you know, insignificant, nothing, that whatever. Some people don't believe that prayer helps, but I know it does. And I know that my prayers for other people have helped and other people's prayers for me.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how many times I could have died. I mean, my mom is a prayer warrior. Every day she's like reading her Bible and she prays. And she may not understand some of the like more esoteric principles about different stuff, but I'm still alive and I know that I've had supernatural help.
Yeah. Well, I want to end this episode and actually implore people, especially we're talking about proactivity and being proactive. I want anyone listening to this, if you've been putting something off, like if there's something you've really wanted to change, something you've wanted to do differently, or something like you kind of know that you have to do and you may be procrastinating, we've all been there, I get it. Like this is if you're listening to this, like this is your sign to do it and commit to it. So Isaac and I, we've stated our intention that we're going to commit to doing our morning routine in the jigsaw method for the next 90 days, because depending on what you hear, a lot of people say that it takes 21 days to form a habit. In my NLP training, and I think what they talk about in Atomic Habits, it's actually 66 days because that's how long it takes to form a neural pathway in the brain. Whatever. So 66 days is just over 2 months. So I always like rule of thumb for me is like, if you really want to commit to something, commit to 12 weeks or 3 months as a bare minimum. And it's funny because that's what you see most like weight loss programs and things like that are usually like a 12-week program. So commit to it for 12 weeks. And even if it's just one thing and just do it every day or do it consistently, it might be like a once a week thing that you want to do, and do it consistently. And see how your life shifts for the better and how you shift. Because again, coming back to the identity piece, when we don't see ourselves as that person that does that thing, when you start doing it and you do it consistently, you prove to yourself, like you prove to the subconscious mind that like you prove it wrong essentially, because a lot of the stuff, the subconscious is trying to keep us safe. So it keeps us limited. So when we push ourselves out of that, we're proving to ourselves consciously that we can do it, but then we're disproving those underlying beliefs that we, whatever's underlying the belief that we can't. So it's so important. Yeah, absolutely. So,
and you're also building a better self-esteem, a better relationship with yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
And I recommend, start small and then be consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this and you're going to do something and you want to set the intention, like reach out to us and let us know. You can reach out to us on socials. We're on Telegram. Just head to our link tree. It's in the show notes. If you follow us on Substack, you can always message us or comment on the episodes. You can also comment on Spotify now. And anyway, there's so many ways you can reach out to us. So we love to hear from our listeners.
And our customers. Yeah.
And our customers too, yeah. But yeah, in the case of the show, we love hearing from our listeners and getting feedback. So if you actually do something like and also it's so important to set the intention and actually like tell someone, because again, there's that accountability. And then like in 3 months time, let us know where you're at with it. Because even if you fall off the wagon, like that's the biggest thing too. It's normal to fall off the wagon. So if you have a day where it's like, no, I didn't do everything perfectly, or I forgot to do it or whatever, it's fine. Just dust yourself off, get back up and just keep going.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Again, that's resilience.
And if you are someone like me that likes more of a physical challenge, do it. Take care of yourself. Find out what you're capable of. Build that habit over time. Be someone that's strong and formidable to protect the ones you love around you, to be able to like have the physicality to back up your words. We need men like that. We need men of greatness now more than ever, and less distraction, more focus and fortitude, and you'll find out the formula afterwards. I have this little saying that I say, fortitude over formula, or fortitude before formula. Start going and you'll figure out how the best way to do it through the process. So don't feel like you have to have green lights before you go. It helps to learn along the way. If you need any kind of help with like, physical fitness and stuff like that, definitely go and learn from somebody that knows how to do it safely. But we need to get stronger and we need to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And for anyone listening that's interested, we mentioned it on Kelly's episode, but if you're interested in doing the jigsaw method training, it's actually such great value. Like at full price, it's $147, I think, which is also like for a program that you're on a live call every day for a week, that's like unheard of. But if you become a My Self-Reliance member, which is only, don't quote me on what it is for the year, it comes down to like a fraction of that, like a third of the cost or something like that. So yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. If you want to do something like that, you feel called to it, definitely go and check out myselfreliance.com.au and you can reach out to Kelly and book in there. We'll pop the link in the show notes. And also I actually forgot to mention, I was like, I feel like the listeners get a better deal on Alleviate Pro, and I just remembered why, because the introductory offer will be until the end of May, but as a Natural AF listener, you get an extra 10% off that as well using the code NaturalAF10 at checkout at naturalartform.com. So yeah, be sure to grab that and check it out now, especially like I said, if you already love Alleviate and you want something even more powerful, yeah, definitely go and grab a jar and let us know how you go with it. And that's one of the ways you can help support us with this show.
Yep. And I think this is a big part of staying healthy longer. And we're both aiming for at least 120 as far as how many years we're going to live.
Oh, yeah. 120 is like,
and
yeah.
I feel like DMSO and magnesium, these are all little components. It's what you do consistently over time that makes some of the biggest difference when you expand it out to years in the future. So I'm excited, but I keep getting told how young I look. I'm 39, almost turning 40. And I'm, almost the fittest I've ever been. I could definitely do a bit more as far as like cardio and all that. But like, there's no reason you can't be healthy and fit into your 80s, 90s. It's not even that many things you got to do. Just the small little consistent,
it's all about
good
simplicity.
choices.
Just keep it simple. That's my Taurus sun speaking. But honestly, the more simple you keep it, the more successful you be, in my opinion.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you today. I really
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. I hope that you guys enjoyed that and actually got something out of it. Like, I hope that you got at least one little golden nugget, like a takeaway that you can actually take with you and implement and do something.
I mentioned Sakosho. I won't get too deep into it, but he was a bit down and seemed a bit down. He was talking about how looks like he was losing faith in humanity and like good, honest people. And I just want to encourage him and anyone else. So Dylan Sakosho, author of some really good books and a friend of Chance Garton, who's been on this show. And he and I had a little bit of back and forth. He was not as
he basically
open to what I was saying.
He basically blocked Isaac for being positive and like having a positive perspective.
I was inviting him to come hang out with us at Bearfest if we end up there in October. And he's like, you're proselyte. Anyways, not to take shots at him. I love his work. I can see that he's a little bit in a little bit of like a down mood or space. And I want to encourage him and anyone else that's going through that. I understand it. You have every reason to believe that humanity is shit and it's all going down the toilet. But it doesn't take much to make a difference. It really doesn't. It only takes like, a handful of people, and that little spark of inspiration, that can be you in the community of people that you're at. Mm-hmm. So, and you don't have to be annoying. I'm sure it's super annoying when you're in a bad mood.
But can I just say
and then I pop in, I'm like, let's go hang out, bud. But
that's also why perspective is so important, because if you believe that the world is shit and people are shit and whatever, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's what you believe and that's what you focus on, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah.
So that's, again, the change starts with you. So we're not going to keep harping on about it. We're done. Let's finish up.
Cool. Thanks for joining. Catch you next week on Natural AF.
See you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Natural AF podcast, where we explore holistic healing modalities, mindsets, and methods that reconnect us to nature and our natural state of being.
If something resonated, share this episode and see the show notes for our guest links, as well as all of our discount codes for our aligned affiliates and Natural Art Form, where we handcraft a range of organic, natural remedies that help support your body's natural healing abilities and help support the show.
If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a few seconds to leave us a rating and review. And if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, hit the like button and drop us a comment, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates.
We're not here to conform. We're here to remember what's real. So step into your power, be curious, and be natural AF.